Entering the atmosphere in T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello there, folks, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Omega Metroid Podcast. My name is not Andy Spiteri. I am Duminal Crossing, you might know me. And we got Mr. Dakota Lasky coming in clutch with us today. Dak, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing solid. Yeah, everything's all good. How you doing?
Pretty good. We're doing pretty good on our first try recording. No other shenanigans happening. Absolutely not. Yeah, we had a lot of stuff going on. WrestleMania happened. I saw AC/DC recently. Got back from LA. Had a blast doing that.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, we got a fun episode today. We're going to be talking about some Metroid story theories. We're going to be kind of conglomerating all of like the information we've gotten, whether it be comments from Tanabe to like all the gameplay that we've gotten for almost a year now. And we're going to kind of just try to, do a little futuristic prediction little thing going on with that. Before we do that though, we did want to talk about some Switch 2 information. Every single time we do one of these podcasts, it seems there's some more permanent Switch 2 information that drops from the sky. And today, or actually, well, not today. It's about a day old now. We got some more info that's very important for us North Americans, and that is the new pre-order date and the associated prices. So North American pre-orders, we got delayed a little bit, but we are back in the game. North American pre-orders begin Thursday, April 24th. Depending on what territories you're in, you might be able to get that in on Wednesday night. For West Coasters like me, unfortunately, I will be at work, so I probably will not be able to get in on those Wednesday pre-orders. But I will be doing some old school GameStop camping on Thursday, hoping that I can be one of the lucky recipients. But aside from the pre-order date, we also got some updated pre-order prices, and to my pleasant surprise, most of the important stuff seems to still be the same price. So both the Switch consoles, the base and the Mario Kart bundle, are still $450 and $500 respectively. The game prices are exactly the same. So $70 for most of those games, $80 for Mario Kart, $10 for the Welcome Tour. Which honestly, of all those things, the Welcome Tour pricing is honestly kind of the most asinine to me. But that's neither here nor there. And then NSO, surprisingly, this one's the biggest surprise, at least for me. I was expecting NSO prices to go up. At least as of right now, it is going to continue to be $20 base and $50 for the expansion pass, respectively. So that's really nice. Where the price increases do come in are the accessories and the amiibo. Amiibo are going up $10. The dock is going up $10. Pro controller and Joy-Cons go up $5. The camera goes up $5, and the Joy-Con wrist strap goes up by $1. As you heard me say, I'm pleasantly surprised and I'm fine with this pricing. Dak, what are your thoughts on this kind of laundry list of info that just kind of dumped on us the past couple of days?
Yeah, I'll keep it more concise this time around, for lack of hopefully no more technical issues. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm still planning on getting the Mario Kart World Bundle because, I don't really care much about having the game physically, so I will be able to get Mario Kart World for $50 and get the system, and that'll be $500. The accessories are kind of crazy to me, man. I mean, even with the price increases, even without the price increases, they were expensive, but now it's like $85 for a Pro Controller, like almost $100 for a pair of Joy-Cons, $120 for the dock set, like, and it's not always been this way, and maybe, I've been out of like buying out of the console buying game in quite a while. Like, I didn't really buy any like accessories for the Switch, so like it's been a while since like probably since like the Wii or whatever, where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna buy like this little doodad and this little gadget that comes with the system because they were cheap and it would be like fun new ways to maybe handle the games or try things out. Like, sure, I'll put my Wii into a shotgun shaped thing or whatever, like, or a skateboard, like whatever. But now it's just like, if I want to buy the system and like a single game and like two controllers, right? Like two pro controllers, like that's like $650, $700. Like, it's crazy. It honestly is crazy. And I said this last time I was on the show, and I feel for, families, right? Who like, you got 2 or 3 kids and they all want the games they want to play and the different controllers so they can all play, and it's like that's like gonna be at least $1,000, and at least with the current launch lineup, like I'm personally not, like, I know we've been talking about it on the Discord, I'm personally not someone who's like, I don't even know if I'm gonna pre-order it. I might just wait till it comes out and I'll just go and pick one up. I'm not too worried about it. It's like I'm pretty much just gonna be playing Mario Kart until something else I'm interested in drops. So as long as I get like the Mario Kart World bundle, I'm pretty much set. Unless I'm like, all right, I want to play day one so I can start grinding Mario Kart, whatever, stream it, make some content, or like kind of be part of, the big launch hype. Like, okay, fine. I don't know when Metroid Prime 4 comes out, so I'm not sure how long I'll be waiting on that. So it's really just Mario Kart World. But the accessories, yeah, like they're definitely banking on people who are like not just the casual gamer, like the more dedicated player who's like, all right, I'm gonna buy all the different accessories, I'm gonna get everything else and spend the extra few $100s. But it's like, you want a couple extra pairs of Joy-Cons and a Pro Controller, that's the whole system right there in terms of price. It's kind of crazy. I don't know, it's just, I wonder what like the breaking point, like the threshold is for people of, all right, I want to play this and I'm gonna, I can't afford it, but now, like, I don't know, maybe I really can't afford it. Like some of the prices here are kind of crazy.
Yeah, I remember last year when the PS5 Pro was revealed at $600, which doesn't even include a disc drive, by the way. You still got to pay extra for that. But we were both clowning on like the price and all that, and I was like, man, who on earth would pay $600 for a brand new console? Well, or excuse me, was that $700 or was that 600? I
don't know. You asked the wrong guy. I didn't buy one.
Yeah,
didn't buy it.
I was like. No, it was $700. $600 was the price of the PS3 back in the infamous PS3. $599 US. Now I remember. Okay.
But anyways, then, so
yeah. But well again, so I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, I'm getting the Mario Kart bundle obviously, and then I want to get the Switch 2 Pro controller as well. But I was looking at that and I'm like, man, that's like $600 right there. And I got 3 perfectly fine Pro controllers right here. Don't have Joy-Con drift. They still work, brand new still. I take good care of them. Do I really need that Switch 2 Pro controller right now? I don't know. I've everyone that's play tested it says that the thumbsticks feel especially great, but like, do they feel $85 great? I don't think so. At least not right now. So, maybe if one of them, maybe if one of my controllers goes out, I'll replace it with the Switch 2 Pro controller. Or if I just absolutely really need that chat feature, which I don't think I will be needing that, but if I do, I'll consider it. But like, yeah, as of right now, I'm probably just gonna go for that Mario Kart bundle, and which for me, obviously, Mario Kart's one of my all-time favorite series, so that is a game that I'm like absolutely willing to pay a premium for on day one. But yeah, that controller, I'm definitely having second thoughts on, and I think I might be skipping out on it for the time being.
I don't remember who posted. I mean, it was just some post or meme I saw on the internet, and it was like, I totally get how my parents feel back in like 2008 when people were like begging for a Wii, whatever, during the economic downturn. Then I'm like, if I was a parent right now and my kids were asking for a Switch 2 and accessories and a Roblox gift card or whatever, I'd be like, get out of here. Like, you're nuts. You're nuts. And, I mean, I still think even if the economy wasn't where it was right now, it would still be very expensive. And I think we talked about this on the show previously too, where like Nintendo has always kind of been the like accessible part of gaming, right? Like, okay, it doesn't have the best graphics, doesn't have the best hardware or whatever, but it's like, it's an affordable thing that you're going to be able to buy and be able to enjoy, be able to play. And now it's kind of like the, double-edged sword where we've kind of always asked about, all right, well, we want Nintendo to step it up and have better graphics, have better hardware, all that kind of stuff. But now the prices had gone up with that to almost kind of match what the other, console manufacturers or whatever put together. Now Nintendo's matching them perhaps in some way graphically and in terms of features and all that, and now in price. And that kind of comes along with that. And it's easy to say, well, I want better graphics and blah, blah, and all this stuff, but I want the prices to be the same. And I don't think that's the reality we live in or will ever live in. But it is kind of interesting now to be like, okay, like, was it worth it? And I think that was also like the way it was probably always going to go. And Nintendo certainly knows that, like, there are going to be people that pay the prices, pay that premium, buy the accessories, because Nintendo has such a strong following and has unique offerings that other, developers and publishers and manufacturers don't. But again, I wonder what that breaking point is, and if that's going to negatively impact the Switch 2 in terms of like sales and whatnot. Not that that matters really to me. I don't care. That's Nintendo's problem. But it is interesting because the Switch, I feel like, it almost had like just the greenest pastures, right? Like it had a new gimmick that was kind of, that at this point I think has revolutionized the industry, right? Like we have the Switch Deck now, the PlayStation has its own little cloud tablet. I think Microsoft's making one now, right? Like Nintendo was kind of cutting edge on that thing, and the price was good, and it had some really great games. And now it's like, okay, the Switch 2 isn't really doing anything super unique. Like it's adding mouse controls, which I feel like are cool, but are not like brand spanking new, and also kind of, I think, conflict, or like, I don't know if it's necessarily congruent with the rest of the Switch design, even though I'm hyped for them. The price is certainly up, right? We got like a Discord, Nintendo Discord, which I don't think anybody like was necessarily dying to have, but I think Nintendo kind of realized that they needed, like, because it makes so much sense. Like Nintendo has always been so behind on like social features and voice chat and all that, and now they finally have it, but they had to have so much control over it and whatnot that like they had to make their own Nintendo Discord just to make that happen. And now they're pushing it as like a major feature, which I think is really fascinating, because it's like, who cares? I don't know. I guess we'll see how it happens, but I'm a little bummed that like stuff is just, everything's so expensive, and it comes down to not just video games, but everything. And now I think it's certainly going to price people out. It's certainly going to price me out on like, all right, I guess I'm not going to splurge as much as I might have because of the prices.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we can, you're asking like, what is that breaking point for people? I think for a lot of people, that breaking point was already hit, on April 2nd.
Fair.
As we've seen online. I can definitely attest, people in my personal life who were hyped for the Switch 2, and it's like, maybe I don't need that year one. Maybe I can wait a couple of years for, a few more games to come out, Yeah, Mario Kart's awesome, but, I don't know if it's $80 awesome. I also don't, a lot of people just don't want to deal with the hassle of, going through bots and, trying to pre-order. And it's like, you know what, I'll just wait for things to calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe wait for, this economic crisis we're in to settle down a little bit. And then maybe we can consider, getting a Switch 2. But in the meantime, my PlayStation 4, in a lot of cases, my Switch is doing fine for me right now. People are still making games for, those consoles despite how old they are, and that's fine enough for me. I see a lot of people who are like that, and I think we're going to see even more with these price checks. And Nintendo also said in their pre-order announcement that the prices are subject to change in the future. So theoretically, these could get even more expensive.
Yeah, they're like, get it now before we turn it up. Yeah, we really turn the prices up. Get your console now. Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. It's it's a huge bummer, honestly, because otherwise, like, this console is like everything I've always wanted from a Nintendo console, and even in spite of all this, I'm still extremely hyped. It's just really unfortunate that, like. And I don't want to say this in like terms of like, oh, no, everyone needs to agree. It's not a matter of everyone agreeing with me. It's just, man, I wish everybody was as happy and as hyped as I was. But, people aren't, and I think people have a good reason not to be as well. I'm not like trying to poo-poo all over people. I think this is a very concerning thing that's going on. And as you alluded to also, it very obviously expands well past just, video games.
Yeah, and you know what, too, not to harp on this too much, but it's especially for us, like, I mean, this is my, I don't know how many console releases in my lifetime, right? And now I'm an adult, I'm in my 30s, and I've been through a bunch of different console releases. Like, it's a lot easier for me to see, the pain points now than it was maybe in the past, right? And for me, the Switch 2 is very much a this is great, but type of situation. The console's great, but it's expensive. Mario Kart World and Metroid Prime 4 are great, but there's really nothing else for me personally. The mouse cons are great, but they're not really executed in like the perfect way that they really could be. Stuff like that, like the voice chat is great, but it kind of looks janky, and I'm not sure how well it's gonna be, or how well the performance is gonna be. So, and I think that's like the reality of the situation, and also just now having the lens of being gaming for so much of my life, and having the perspective of it's my money I got to spend, and not that it hasn't been for a while. It has. I bought my own Switch, and my own 3DS and whatnot, and my own Wii U. But yeah, I guess it's just kind of easier the more time passes on for me to be like, well, these are the things that kind of take it back for a little bit for me. I don't necessarily have to buy this immediately, right? Though part of me still is like, yeah, but I want to play Mario Kart immediately. But there are things like, wow, I really wish there was like a mouse con. There was an article I was reading earlier today, and I wish I had saved the link, but it was like talking about like a mouse con pro, right? Because I'm not gonna lie to you folks, like the mouse cons are not ergonomical. You're gonna feel strain on your hands and your wrist when you use it, especially for prolonged periods of time. And I wonder if I would have to imagine Nintendo's aware of that. If they're not, I mean, they think they're crazy, because even just going to the Switch 2 experience and playing those games for 2-3 hours, I was feeling it in my wrists and in my hands. I was like, it's not something that is very ergonomical, that's comfortable in your hands for a long period of time, compared to like the mouse that's at my desk right now. If I had a Joy-Con that was shaped like this mouse, if it was just a mouse, then I would be perfect, right? Stuff like that, where I'm just like, I wonder if all these little tiny things are going to add up. Like the butts of the Switch 2 are going to necessarily add up for people. Like the price, the system's good, but the price, the mouse comes cool, but the ergonomics and lack thereof, the lineup is good, but all that kind of stuff. I wonder if that's all going to add up, and it's going to be detrimental to the system, maybe in the first couple of years, in the short term, maybe even the long term, compared to the Switch, which feels like it was kind of firing on all cylinders right from the gate.
Yeah, I don't think, and granted, like I don't know what the future holds. I could be totally wrong. I don't think that the Switch 2 is going to be like a flop coming out of the gate. I also don't think it's going to have. I also don't think it's going to have anywhere near the momentum that the Switch 1 has come out of the gate. Because I think, like you said, there's two for a lot of I would argue probably for like at least half, if not more, of the customers, there's a lot of very noticeable butts attached to the Switch 2, as you put it.
Yeah, and the original Switch was like unique. It was innovative. It was its own thing. Yeah. It wasn't anything like it. Now the Switch 2, you have the Switch already. You have a bunch of other stuff already. And the hooks of the system are not like... I mean, I think the casual Nintendo gamer was not clamoring for mouse controls, right? Or discount Discord, right? Yeah. So it's interesting how those gimmicks are kind of playing with it.
The average Nintendo gamer does not care about 120 frames per second. I think that's awesome. I'm loving this era of Nintendo in that regard.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I do think that's probably the best selling point the Switch 2 has. I think now the casual gamer, like maybe 10 years ago, sure, but like the casual Nintendo gamer now, I think is a lot more on the up and up in terms of like how good games could look for them, right? And probably don't only play their Switch. They probably play games on PC as well. They play PlayStation or Xbox as well. Like I think that's changed a little bit. Where now, like, okay, the selling point of it being 120 frames or being looking that crisp, like, I think it was noticeable in the previous generation, right? Like even the most dedicated Nintendo fans and even casual gamers, like, I mean, my Pokemon game lags when I play it on my Switch. Like that's something anybody would encounter. So I think that's probably the one thing. Like the Switch 2 didn't have that, I think it would be a flop, to be quite honest with you, because the other hooks are not more than enough to hold the system up. The fact that it looks so good and performs seemingly so good is probably the system's one saving grace at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I've compared the Switch 2 to the 3DS a lot in the past. I almost feel like that it coming out of the gate is also going to be similar-ish to the 3DS. Not exactly, because the 3DS had a extremely weak launch lineup. It wasn't until the holiday where things really started kicking in, where you got Mario Kart, and you got Mario 3D Land as well, kind of the double header there. Switch 2 is coming right out of the gate with Mario Kart, and then even though we're not too excited for it, Donkey Kong is definitely like a major game coming out within the next month, and then you're following it up with Metroid, you're following it up with Kirby Air Ride, the Hyrule Warriors game, and probably something else coming out in the holiday as well that we'll find out.
Are
in
those
June.
really heavy hitters though? Like, let's be honest. Like,
I mean, it's hell of a lot of a heavier hitter than Steel Diver was on the 3DS.
Compared to the 3DS, yes, the 3DS lineup was, I mean, atrocious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look at the Switch 2. I mean, I have a negative opinion of the Donkey Kong game. Maybe other people are like, oh, it has Mario Kart, it has Donkey Kong, it has Metroid, that's fine. Kirby Air Ride is cool, but it's a Kirby spin-off game. Hyrule Warriors, or whatever, I mean, that's a Hyrule Warriors game, right? What you just said, the Zelda game? Like,
yeah,
that's a spin-off game, right? There's only 3 real mainline Nintendo IP games that are coming out. We were talking about this in the Discord a while ago, but like, I would love to go back to the Wii's launch title, like type of like lineup for stuff that was launching with the game. So like, sure, it wasn't like, if you go back to that, like, just okay, there weren't a ton of first party IP stuff, sure, I'll give you that, but the amount of actual games that were dropping, I felt like was, and maybe okay, some of them were shovelware. I thought a lot of them were pretty decent. I think
the Wii had a pretty strong launch, if you ask me. I mean right out of the box, you got Wii Sports, which
Wii
I mean,
Sports. You had Twilight
absolutely,
Princess.
Yeah. Excite Truck, which I think is a super underrated racing game. I love Excite
Red
Truck.
Steel, which was dope.
That's right. I forgot about Red Steel. I never actually.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I never actually played Red Steel before.
Cool game. But like, you had other. I mean, you had Super Monkey Ball. You had Madden. You had Dragon. You had Budokai Tenkaichi 2. You had Call of Duty. You had, obviously, everyone wanted to play the Barnyard game. You know, you had Trauma Center. They had a World Series poker game. That's funny. And again, not that these are like amazingly great third-party games across the board. I wish that the third parties. I mean, honestly, maybe I'll pump the brakes, because when I did go to the Switch 2 experience, there were a lot of like, there was a solid amount of third party support there. I mean, they had Cyberpunk running, they had Civ 6 running, they had Street Fighter 6, they had Harry Potter. You know, maybe I'll pump the brakes. They did have a decent amount of there is some third party stuff. Maybe the launch lineup really isn't super, you know, bad. I don't know. I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. I wish there was maybe a stronger first party lineup though.
Yeah, I think the Switch 2's launch lineup is pretty strong. Even granted, a lot of that is being carried by Mario Kart, but like, I think Mario Kart's a worthy game to do the carrying, at least to me. Granted, I am a little bit biased in that regard, but
that's totally fair.
I think the key, I think by June I'll have a better idea of like where I'd rank the Switch 2 lineup, because like the Switch 1, it was all about Breath of the Wild. Like, granted, you also had 1-2 Switch, you also had Snipper Clips.
It's still about Breath of the Wild, man. They're re-releasing that game.
Yeah,
again.
it's
yeah, it's like the Skyrim of Nintendo games now, potentially.
But yeah, Snipper Clip's a very cute puzzle game. I really enjoyed it for what it was. But like, you know, you had a pretty tame launch. You had some minor third-party stuff, because obviously a lot of third parties were pretty tepid after the Wii U. I think this time you're seeing a lot stronger third-party support in that regard, because third parties, understandably, they want to get in on the action. Like, all right, we messed up before. This time we want to be there day one. And
right.
So yeah, I think for now, at least in terms of the launch day lineup, I'm satisfied. When it comes to the launch window lineup, I need to wait for that June Direct to really see where my thoughts lie on this. But yeah, overall, I think more so it's those buts that are echoing a lot of like the mistakes of the 3DS launch, which Nintendo eventually did course correct on, and you know, was able to transform that console from a flop into a relatively successful system. Nowhere near as successful as the DS, and likewise, I don't think the Switch 2 is going to touch the Switch 1 numbers, but I do think that there is still room for the Switch 2 to perform admirably.
Yeah. No, I think it'll ultimately end up being decently fine. That's probably not the problem the Switch 2 has overall.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, pre-orders, by the time this episode goes out, pre-orders will go live in mere hours. So yeah, if you all are smashing that F5 button, or if you're camping out, shout us out in the Discord. Snap some pictures if you are camping out. Show us what you're up to, and yeah, good luck to you all out there. I hope you all get the Switch 2 of your dreams, and a little Mario Kart action for $50 as opposed to $80.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm going to be doing.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about some Metroid.
Yes. Finally.
Yes.
Finally.
So yeah, the kind of the point of the podcast. So for 8 years now, since this damn game was announced, we've gotten little tidbits of information, whether it be the myriad of Omega Metroid episodes where we've talked about a new hire at Retro Studios, to finally getting the gameplay reveal last year, to a little bit more info, and finally colliding with the announcement of the Switch 2 edition. We've been on quite a journey with Metroid Prime 4, and so we kind of wanted to just conglomerate like all of the official information we have, kind of, and try to do our best to piece together what's going on and speculate on kind of what direction Metroid Prime 4 is going on, and maybe what we can expect to see in this theoretical June direct. Because I personally think we're in for a Metroid Prime 4 blowout come June. But yeah, I don't know. What were your thoughts on that? Because last week we talked a little bit more about that Treehouse demo, the one that you got to try out, and we were really dissecting and talking about like all the different details and stuff like that. Obviously, we talked about the insane glow up of the Federation Force mechs, and so I kind of wanted to get more of your thoughts. Last week we kind of told, or not last week, but when we had you on last time, we were talking about kind of, your overall impressions of the gameplay. I wanted to talk about more of like, kind of the world building details that you experienced in the demo. Was there anything that really caught your eye when you were playing this demo?
I think, by the way, it's interesting that you think that there's going to be like a big June blowout for Prime 4, because I don't think that's going to happen. To be honest with you, because what's coming out in July is the Donkey Kong game, and they're going to be talking about that. World building. I don't think it's the only game that's gonna be blown out, but I mean, you got to put a release date on that game eventually. I mean, I think it's probably gonna be closer to the holidays. To be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anyway. I'm thinking September for that.
Yeah. World building. I mean, I think the biggest takeaway was the Metroid Fusion stuff for me, right? Because there seems to be some kind of, I don't remember exactly how it was described, but it was along the lines of like the Metroids can like fuse with like a host, and obviously it seems to kind of like enhance their powers a little bit, but also like controls them in some way. I think that's probably, I mean, I would have to imagine that's probably how the Space Pirates are aligned with Sylux. Either Sylux somehow created these new Metroids that are like fusion Metroids or whatever. I don't think that's a name that's been used in the series yet, has it? I feel like part of me,
we've had fission Metroids, but not
that's
fusion
what I'm thinking,
Metroids.
Yeah, fission Metroids.
Yeah.
So we have fusion Metroids now, and either Sylux was like, I have these fusion Metroids, Space Pirates, come join me, and the Space Pirates are like, that's sick, yeah, we're in. Or he's using the fusion Metroids to control them, and that's how he's got them aligned with him. So I want to say that like that's going to be like a linchpin thing for the game on one end, is how did Sylux like create these Metroids? Because I mean, again, I could be missing it, but I'm pretty sure that's how it happened. He has these special fusion Metroids, and we're gonna learn about how he got those, and he's using them to align with the pirates and then attack the Federation, because that's his MO. I don't really think that we're gonna learn a lot about Sylux. Like, I don't think we're gonna see like the backstory of Sylux super built out here. I think he's gonna be a pretty, not like a generic villain, but we're gonna kind of get like, okay, Sylux is advancing towards his MO that we already know, right? Like, I don't think we're going to get like a ton of backstory on him. Like, he hates Federation. He's the bad guy. He wants to steal their stuff. And now he has this new power that allows him to do that. And Samus has to take him down. Like, I don't think Sylux's like helmet's going to come off. I don't think Sylux is going to be Adam's brother or Samus's brother or dad or whatever. Well, I guess he can't be her dad, because she has like, I don't know how many, right? Like, that was probably the biggest thing to me, because I think that's really where I'm assuming Sylux has some kind of power, because at least from the standoff we saw in that the early cutscene from the intro, that he seems to be outclassed by Samus, right? And I'm assuming that he has that edge in the beginning of the game a little bit with the pirates of like, I have these really strong Metroids. And then later in the game, he really gets a big edge over Samus, which I'm assuming Sylux is going to get some kind of psychic powers of his own, which we can talk about later.
100%, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm 100% inclined to agree with that. So in the intro of the game, it mentions a little bit about the mind controlling Metroids, the fusion Metroids, if you will, and it does mention that like I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it says it's believed that Sylux is using Metroids that can control people's minds to mind control the space pirates.
Oh, okay,
and,
so it's a straight up.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. So. Well, again, though, because in that cutscene, we do specifically see the fusion Metroid latch onto the pirate, and then when you scan, I think Abarax is the name of that kind of fusion pirate, and mentions that pirate in that specific moment is being controlled and enhanced by that Metroid. So I guess my question that I'm still wondering is, are the space pirates only being controlled when the Metroid physically latches onto them and makes them like a super pirate? Or is there always like some sort of state of mind control going on when the Metroids are just hovering around them?
So to me, what I'm thinking is that like, so like the space pirates that like are breaking into the facility with Sylux, like in that moment, they're not being like mind controlled, literally. They're like aligned with Sylux because he has these mind controlled Metroids, which they see as very valuable. And so they're like, this guy has mind controlling Metroids, and we have these big bosses and space pirates that if we put them together will be even stronger. So that's what I'm like, that's my interpretation of it, is that like each individual space pirate is not controlled by the fusion Metroids, but they're trying to leverage Sylux's fusion Metroids with their elites and their other abominations they're creating, and being like, well, we have these things that Samus seems to kill all the time, right? Or they're just thinking, we have these really strong things, but they can be even stronger if we take this dude's fusion Metroids and put them together, right? Instead of trying to control just Metroids or just our crazy science experiments, what if we put those two things together and create an even stronger power that had never existed before, right? I don't think it's necessarily going to be the case that like Sylux is literally controlling all of the space pirates individually and they're all mind controlled. I definitely don't think that. I think they're mind controlled in the way of like they're super hooked on this idea of Sylux's fusion Metroids and they're trying to exploit that. Or they're aligning with him because he's strong and he's offering that, and it's probably like a little give and go, like, hey, I'll boost up your boss characters in your space pirate organization if you help me come in and attack the Federation. They're like, well, we'd love to attack the Federation. That's great. We love doing that. Yeah. And so that, and so they work together real easily. I can see down the story maybe, or maybe the Sylux starts sicking the fusion Metroids on the individual space pirates, and he's like, all right, now I'm going to actually mind control all of you and you're screwed. That I could see, but at least from the beginning, from the onset, it doesn't seem like that's necessarily the case.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree there, and I also hope you're right, because I think if Sylux was just 100% of the time always in control of the space pirates, one, I think that'd be kind of lame, and two, that's literally what Prime 3 did. It would just be Prime 3 right. Again, where the entire space pirate armada is being mind controlled. So I hope it's not like literally a literal repeat of that to that degree.
Yeah, I don't think it is, also because from when the fusion Metroids like take over a host, like you can see the Metroids like on them and like coming out of them and whatnot. And at least from what I remember, the individual space pirates, they're not like, there isn't like a Metroid jutting out of its like chest or whatever or head. It was just like the big guy, whatever his name is, Carfax or Abarax or whatever. I don't know.
Carfax is the
Flagra boss.
That's the plant.
Yes.
Which I think I talked about this on the last episode, but people pointed out during that trailer that it looks like one of those Metroid growths is attached to that, and that's the weak point on that boss, which is also the weak point on the
I'm assuming it's going to be the weak point for all of the bosses, to be quite to be quite honest with you. It's probably the obvious weak point.
It's definitely weak point coded for sure. So I definitely think I don't know, I guess we could just talk about like the artifact and like maybe the implications of that going right now, because I do think that these fusion Metroids are going to be sent along with everyone else, and we're going to see kind of those fusion Metroids combining with like various wildlife, more pirates. Maybe we have to fight a Galactic Federation soldier that gets corrupted. That'd be kind of messed up, but I'd be totally down for that.
I could definitely see that 100%. That would be really fun. I think that's where the story should go, is the fusion Metroids getting their claws or mandibles or whatever into everything. You know, maybe even Sylux. You know, maybe Sylux lose, because I mean, Metroid's notoriously hard to control. I wonder if Sylux kind of, bites off a little bit more than he can chew, and he ends up getting Metroided and fused, or at some point we get, Metroid Sylux or something. Like, that's what they should do. They should just try to use this concept and lean into it as much as they can. Like, if they just, like, okay, all these enemies are fused with Metroids, blah, blah, like, okay, that's fun, but, like, yeah, stick them onto Federations, like, I don't know, have Sylux, whatever, be, have Ridley, get Ridley in this game and have a Metroid fuse with him, like really lean into it. Otherwise, because the concept's probably not going to come back because of where the game is in the timeline, so like, I would have to imagine that they got to, shoot all their shots now. But I think that'll be interesting because it'll certainly be the kind of counter to, or not counter, but like the other side of the coin of the psychic abilities, which will also be a big, hook for the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe one of them could corrupt one of these Lamorn aliens that we're starting to learn about in some of the more recent trailers. That could be an interesting little implication too.
Yeah, I wonder what's up with them, because at least to my understanding that the Lamorn are not around anymore, right? They're like extinct or they were eradicated or something, right? And Samus
That's the vibe I'm getting, but we don't really know for sure what's up at the moment.
Isn't it confirmed in like a scan or something that they are in fact maybe they're not eradicated, but like they used to live on Vuros and they don't currently live there. Like if I'm looking at I'm now going through the Wikitroid, right? And I'm trying to pull this up. I'm pretty sure it was a source that says that the Lamorn used to live on Vuros, and they don't currently live on the planet in some kind of way. And at least like from what you can see from the gameplay, like they're kind of like, transparent. Like maybe they're projections of some kind, like mind projections or literal light projections. I don't think they're actually there when Samus encounters that one Lamorn.
Let's see. Okay, so I'm looking at the actual scan entry when Samus scans the statue in that Switch One Direct trailer. It says, "Ancient Lamorn sculpture carved from a single stone with identical dimensions similar to statues. A receptacle for a psychic mote is built into its forehead." So I don't think this scan. Yeah. So that scan doesn't mention anything about the Lamorn being extinct. I definitely think they are, just like the way they're presented. Like they look like very spiritual figures. They don't look like beings that are like have physical organic matter within the universe. So it does seem like they almost transcended to like some different plane. That being said, at least as far as I can see, nothing has been outright confirmed yet.
I'm looking at the Wikitroid page for the Lamorn, and there's a reference, a citation that goes to the Japanese Switch website for the game, and it translates to a comment that says an alien race that once existed on Vuros. So I don't know.
Okay, well there you go.
But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that like they're eradicated or extinct. They might have left Vuros, right?
Yeah.
I guess we're gonna learn more about like. I mean, Samus only seems to encounter one of them, right? It's not like they're walking about. They're not like hanging around. And
in the key art, I was
Yeah.
just gonna say in the key art we actually see 3 of them kind of behind Samus.
Okay,
there. But
so
yeah, in the
there's
trailer
3 of
we
them.
only see the one.
Yeah. But it's not like she lands on the planet and they're all over the place like humans or whatever, like on
Right.
Earth, you know, like,
Yeah.
like she only encounters seemingly 3 of them. And they seem to be in this state of not necessarily being there entirely in a physical matter state. So I don't know if we want to get into like story theories on that, but I would have here's what I think is going to happen here. I guess we just dive into it.
Let's go for it.
I think the Lamorn are actually bad guys. So
I agree.
I think
agree.
the Lamorn are bad guys, and they believe that they can trick Samus into resurrecting them, right? In some way, like they were eradicated or they were kicked off Vuros or eliminated, whatever, for a good reason or for whatever, right? And there's like a few remaining ones, or they live in some kind of plane where they can exist with Samus's, you know, with the real world or whatever it is, and they trick Samus into resurrecting them, right? Like they create a scenario in which Samus can end up on the planet. They give her these psychic powers to kind of coax her into believing like their story and getting her on their side, right? And Samus is like, yeah, I come across these types of alien races all the time that want my help. Like, why wouldn't I help these Lamorn people, right? And they gave me these cool, nifty psychic powers. Sweet, I'm totally on their side. And then Samus learns of their true nature, and she declines. She's like, nah, I'm not gonna help you. I can't do this. But who else is on the planet that could totally help them? Sylux. They give Sylux the same psychic powers, and they try to get Sylux to resurrect them. And then Samus must ultimately stop Sylux from doing that. So I think that's going to be like the main... I think that's the main story. Like, Samus shows up on the base, helps the Federation troops, helps the Federation force fight against Sylux. Sylux shoots the artifact, creates this whole whatever teleporting portal scenario, right? All this stuff ends up on Vuros. Samus, Sylux, the pirates, the Federation stuff. Federation mechs, her ship, bunch of other ships, all this other tech, the artifact, all this stuff. Samus now is like, okay, well, I gotta go and at least help the Federation people that are here. While she's doing that, she gets involved with, and probably has to go and find Sylux. While she's doing that, she gets roped into the Lamorn thing, and the Lamorn are like, hey, it's great that you're here. We need your help. She tries to help them while she's also dealing with all this other stuff, and then learns about the Lamorn's actual nefarious side. But by that point, Sylux now gets involved. They give Sylux psychic powers. Sylux tries to resurrect them because he's like, wow, I could have space pirates, fusion Metroids, and these Lamorns on my side. Like, I'd be the strongest thing in the galaxy. And then Samus has to stop them. And I think along the way, she's going to be helping Federation troops and whatnot, and finding her ship and dealing with stray Metroids and running into Sylux here and there. While she's on this main story. Very much like, you know, Metroid Prime 1, I feel like I said in the last show, where like she shows up at Frigate Orpheon, she's dealing with the space pirates directly, follows Ridley to the planet, and then while she's dealing with the pirates and dealing with Ridley, she's also now gets roped into the story of helping the Chozo and dealing with Phazin and helping the planet, and of course has to stop Metroid Prime and stop the space pirates from their schemes and whatnot. I think it's very much going to be similar to that, but I think that's the play here, is that the Lamorn are actually not good chaps. They are actually the bad guys.
Yeah, they're kind of sus, as the kids say. Yeah, I totally agree. And I've heard some people speculating on this and being disappointed, like, oh, that would be lame because it's obvious, and maybe, but also I think that's kind of a cool twist, even if it is something that we can.
I don't think it's that obvious.
I don't think. Well, and even if it was, like, I don't think predicting a twist makes the twist bad. I think a twist can still be clever if it's telegraphed. And because I don't know, like, one of my you and I are in agreement about this in the 2D games, and that we are incredibly disappointed on how the whole Federation subplot has seemingly just been abandoned and dropped off. At this point, I don't expect that to ever come back. And it's really unfortunate because I think for both of us, that's one of our favorite parts of Metroid Fusion is that whole kind of Federation plot line and kind of this dichotomy of like, you know, this organization you've worked with that has been such a force for good and having to contend with some of its shadier aspects. And this seems like a really fun way to revisit that concept without really tying that exact storyline. And to see a game actually like really follow through with it, I'm actually really intrigued by that. At least for me. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about just the concept of like working with a group that you think is good but ends up being bad, like yes, like yes, like I mean, because if you were to say, oh, it's obvious that the Lamorn are going to be the bad guys. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily obvious. We don't know enough in either direction to know what they're good or bad or not.
I wouldn't say obvious, but there are some hints. Particularly, I want to say it's the French website, but it says under Lamorn, there's like a little blurb that translates to friend or foe question mark.
Right,
it's
but
like,
that's what I'm saying. It's not like it's it could go either way. Like I don't think it's obvious like, oh, they're definitely bad guys. I mean, that's also marketing stuff. They could just be saying that.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think it's less interesting if they are just straight up good guys because we've already had that multiple times. We've literally had that in every single Metroid Prime game already, pretty much. So like, would that be more interesting if they just run that back again? In that way, yeah, I think it's interesting that like the Lamorn are on this planet and we don't know if they're good or not and what their real intentions are. And I'm certain that that won't be the only part of the twist, right? Like if they're good or bad, like I'm sure there's other stuff that we're not even considering that could add to the twist that we don't even know about. And to write that off based on what, like a couple websites and like promo material and like an intro to the game that has nothing to do with them, like I think it's ridiculous. If you're talking more specifically about the Federation being good or bad and that being tapped into in this story, I don't think it's gonna have anything to do with that.
Oh no, the Federation are going to be good guys through and through. I mean, I mean purely the concept of like Samus working with an organization or a force and ends up having to go against that organization in the end game. That's kind of that raw concept.
The conceptual part of that basis, yes, that's I think is interesting and should definitely be explored. I mean, that's the real world, right? Like things are not black and white, and certainly, you know, that could be the case for not just the Galactic Federation, but for anything. Yes, I definitely think the Federation are going to be straight up good guys in this, and that's fine. It makes sense, and I don't need anything more than that. But yeah, I think the Lamorn are certainly going to be in this state of like, are they really that good? Are they really bad? And you know, maybe ultimately they are good, right? Like that's fine. I'm interested in seeing like, okay, what are their actual intentions? You know, they are like, it would be less interesting for me if it is literally just like the Lamorn want help from Samus, they give Samus psychic powers, and then Samus helps them. Like that's the least interesting route I think they could go.
I mean that's basically a repeat of the Luminoth in Metroid Prime 2, which I love the Luminoth.
It's the repeat of Chozo as well in Metroid Prime 1. Like and that was fine for that time, but we've had many games since then. We've had, you know, and maybe they are good, but like I'm okay if they're not necessarily straight up bad guys either. Like they could be in the middle. Like they could be good but have some stuff about them that Samus has to deal with, or they're bad guys, but maybe they're doing it for a good reason, or there's something Samus can align on them with to like, you know, like that. There's, I would not write it off as like, oh, it's definitely obvious they're the bad guys, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Maybe some are good, some are bad.
Exactly. Right. Which would be very realistic. No, ultimately though, what I do think is going to happen is, and I think this is more so, I just hit my mic. Sorry. I think this is more so not because the Lamorn might be good or bad or not. I think it's more so that like there's a really big setup to me of Sylux not being on the same level as Samus at the beginning of the game, and there needs to be some reason that he eventually becomes stronger than Samus later in the game, and I can see that being Sylux getting psychic powers. And I would imagine that they would give Sylux the psychic powers because the Lamorn are not on the up and up, right? There's something to them that would give Sylux those powers, even though he's clearly the bad guy. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
So I guess that brings me to my next question then. In how do we think Samus gets these psychic powers? Does she just because I think the demo makes it pretty obvious that like the artifact absorbs everybody into Vuros, and then everyone just kind of wakes up and are just kind of trying to find their bearings and understand what this place is. That seems to be what's going on here. Do we think Samus already has like, you know, the Mind Stone, if you will, the Vision Stone? Does she wake up like that, or is that something that she is going to collect from one of the Lamorn? Because we don't really know that right now.
I think Lamorn just straight up give it to her. I think Samus shows up on the planet, and it's probably two sides of the same coin. But what I think it's going to be is the Lamorn want to give Samus the power because they want Samus on their side, so they directly give it to them. But I also think that they're like, hey, the planet you're on was made for the Lamorn, or the Lamorn kind of made the planet for themselves. You're not going to get anywhere unless you're a Lamorn, or if you have Lamorn type abilities. Like Samus, we need, like, even beyond, like, let's say they didn't even get to the part of we need your help. Like, Samus, you're not going to be able to get anywhere unless you have this Mind Stone, because all the doors only work for Lamorn psychics and whatnot, and all the you know, like, you're not literally going to be able to do anything without it. So I think that's the first step of it, of like, this place was made for us, or we made this place for ourselves. So unless you're a Lamorn, you're not going to be able to make much headway. So you need these psychic abilities to even get anywhere. The second step of that is we need your help. So we're going to give you these psychic abilities so that you can advance and help us throughout your adventure. So I think Samus is like, in the beginning of the game, she's really only going to be able to go to the tree pretty much, right? Like, she's like, hey, I can't do anything, but I can walk to this tree. And that's where she runs into that Lamorn, and Lamorn's like, hey, you probably noticed you can't go anywhere because all these doors and whatever take psychic abilities, and all these enemies need psychic abilities to defeat them, blah, blah, blah. Here's that psychic power for you. Now you can advance, and we need you, now that you can advance, to help us. So here are these psychic powers, conveniently. So yeah, I think Samus is going to get them from the Lamorn specifically.
Just wonder if they're gonna like almost like hold her hostage to a degree, like, hey, you want to get out of this planet, you know, we can do that, but you're gonna have to do us a favor first. I wonder if like that's going to play a role into it.
I think I don't think they would do that, because I think they would be smart enough to know that would be immediately suspect. Because I think they would be like, they're going to be more like, hey, like, we're trying to help you, like, we have these amazing psychic powers, you're going to need them to advance, they're going to help you help us, blah, blah, blah. Here you go, they're all yours. Here's the Mind Stone, boom, in your forehead, boom, awesome, there you go. They're not going to be like, hey, if you don't take this, you're stuck, right? Because Samus will probably just be like, well, that's what you think, and I'm gonna blow the place up. Or
maybe they reframe it as like, hey, we want to transport you back to your time, but we physically cannot do this, and the only way for us to help you is if you help us.
I mean, maybe
they frame it like that.
Like they're gonna position it in a way where it's going to be positive. Like, look, this is what we can do for you. Like, help, like, we'll help you, but, you know, maybe help us. You know, blah blah. They're not going to be like, hey, like, you need this to get out of here or you're screwed, you know? Like, they're going
to...
especially if they're the bad guys, they're going to want to try to convince Samus that this is good. So I think it'll be very... The Lamorn shows up, they're like, hey, you're the chosen one. You're the one who's here to come and help us. Like, here are these psychic abilities. Now you're as strong as a Lamorn. You're going to be able to take down this threat to us, that blah, 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 like, that kind of stuff. Like, I think it's going to be very... like, unpresuming of there being a bad side to it, if there is one, right? Like, I don't think they're going to come out of the gate and try to negotiate or hold something over Samus's head. They're going to make it be like, oh, this is perfect. They're going to, I wouldn't be surprised if they're almost desperate to give Samus the psychic powers, whether they're being truthful or not, because that would kind of be a great way to convince Samus to join them.
Absolutely. I am also, I'm thinking about it right now, and I can't help but notice the similarities between psychic abilities and mind controlling Metroids. I do have to wonder, I do have to wonder, like, is that really coincidental, or is there something a bit more going on there? Because at least we don't know what Sylux's interaction with the artifact has been before the Metroids. I'm assuming this is, you know, his first time interacting with it, but also he knew the artifact was on the facility. Why was that? And so, yeah, I'm wondering, like, because I feel like we have to have an answer about these Metroids. Obviously, they're related to Federation Force and like the Metroids stolen there, but like the Metroids that Sylux stole didn't automatically start with these, fusion powers. They had to come from somewhere else. And so I wonder if that's going to be an important plot line and that's going to be related to the psychic abilities, or if that's just going to be another thing that's hand waved. Like, nope, he figured out how to create fusion Metroids. That's it. Just go with it. That's not the important thing here.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good point. There is certainly a correlation to like, psychic abilities in general fiction and being like, oh, I can maybe mind control or get into the head of something else with my psychic abilities. On the other hand, I could absolutely see it being, yeah, Sylux just created these fusion Metroids off screen before the game started. Don't worry about that. And I could see it being kind of both things, where Sylux does create these fusion Metroids somehow, but then there's also some play with Samus' psychic abilities where maybe she's able to counteract the fusions or something. She's able to stop them. Or maybe Samus can start to control them and sick Metroids against Sylux and the pirates, right? Like that's where I feel like I don't think they're going to get hung up very much on like the how of fusion Metroids being created. I think it's more so going to play into the how of maybe Samus can interact with them, or counterbalance that, and the why behind why Sylux had done it in the first place. Because that I do think is an interesting idea to think of, which is, okay, how if Sylux has these fusion Metroids, what is Samus's counter to that, right? Like, is Samus able to eventually control the Metroids with her psychic abilities? Can she stop the fusion Metroids? Can she make fusion Metroids' powers stop working, or can she use their powers against them, or take control of the Metroids for herself, like that kind of stuff. That's where I feel like maybe that's an additional, like almost the final layer of Samus's psychic abilities. Like the highest level of those is where she is able to gain a similar power almost to what the fusion Metroids are kind of giving Sylux in terms of controlling things.
Yeah. Almost wonder, and we're going into like pure fanficky theory here. I don't even necessarily know if I like this idea or not, but it's just something that occurred to me in the moment. What if, so now that we're talking about like the possibility of Samus mind controlling now and how that might relate to the Metroids, what if what if that is the trade-off that Samus gets from the Lamorn? She gets this Mind Stone and she gets these physical psychic abilities, and then maybe in the end game it kind of pulls almost like a BioShock twist. Like, you thought you were acting of your own free will, but in all actuality you were playing a very specific role, and the end game is you kind of detaching yourself from that role and fighting against that. And then kind of in a Metroid more power fantasy twist, you end up getting that power and end up being able to do the mind controlling. I don't know if I necessarily like that idea or not, but it's just something that occurred to me in the moment.
I mean, that could be really fun though, if like there's a big battlefield and there's a ton of Metroids and you're trying to control as many of them as you can against Sylux's forces, and Sylux is trying to control as many as he can somehow, or because again, I'm not entirely sure like how. I mean, the Metroids might have some control over whatever they're fusing with, but how is Sylux controlling the Metroids in terms of, telling them to do its, his bidding and whatnot. Because that's still another unexplained thing here, is where did Sylux get this kind of capacity to control the Metroids and use them as weapons, which, famously the Space Pirates have been trying to figure out for the entirety of the franchise's existence, and have gotten pretty close.
Yeah, Metroids are not pets.
Right, yeah. So it's like, how does Sylux do that? And maybe, I mean, I don't think Sylux probably had the psychic abilities all along, but maybe he had a similar artifact, or he had some kind of technology that mimicked the psychic abilities or the artifact or whatever it is. And that's the stuff that I'm curious to find out about, because I would love to know, because very clearly whatever Sylux has, like that's making it so that he even has a chance against Samus, maybe. Right, is he's able to get the Space Pirates on his side, and he's somehow got control of these Metroids and whatnot. It still isn't enough, but at least gives, the Federation, puts them on their back foot, on a base at least, right? I'm curious, like, does, after the events of Prime 3, is Sylux like kind of, recruiting stray space pirates who were kind of left behind at the end of that war there, and he's like, hey, like you're not on Zebes, you're kind of screwed. Like there's, you don't got a leader and you're all stranded in space and the Federation just, beat you down hard. But hey, I have these Metroids that listen to me and they fuse with stuff, and I'm a new cool looking dude. Why don't you work with me? Like what leverage does he have? I want to know what that leverage is, and that'll be interesting to find out.
I do think it's interesting. Metroid 2 for the longest time was the first canonical instance of like, a Metroid bonding to another person, and Prime 4 seems to be superseding that almost. I don't want to necessarily say these new Metroids are bonded to Sylux, but obviously he seems to have like a great deal of control over them. I mean, yeah, it's possible.
He could be breeding them, and he's the first thing that they all awake and are born to, and like if he's standing in a room and 100 of them hatch, right, are they all gonna be like, well, we're with this guy, like he's our dad, right? Is that how it's working, right? Or is he somehow like genetically modifying them to be predisposed to be, on his side? Like that's, again, I don't necessarily think that they're gonna get super into that and very granular with it, but I do hope that they get a little into it, because at least even with what we know from Federation Force and like the end of Prime 3, like it's very little, right? Like Samus, Sylux is going after Samus, and then Sylux has a Metroid and steals one, right? That doesn't, there's a lot to be explained from those two little things and the beginning of Metroid Prime 4, sorry. And I hope that they do lean into that a little bit, because that will, I think, maybe give us a bit more insight into what Sylux is capable of and what he's really after, and who he is, without necessarily having to go like the super like backstory route of like his origins and whatnot. Which
my dark tragic past.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, we're probably going to be able to scan these new Metroids, and I imagine that some of that scan data, it might not tell us everything, but I'm sure it'll give us like a little bit more information onto like how they were created specifically.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I am excited to find out, because there were no Metroids in the intro that I played until that last cutscene.
I was about to say you got a brief cutscene.
Yeah,
there,
in gameplay, I mean, like they don't show up.
Yeah. Obviously gonna play a much bigger role once like the real game actually begins after that tutorial sequence. And as we talked about before, seemingly it looks like they're gonna be taking over, various aspects of Vuros, and I'm really excited to see like what kind of combinations we get. Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, there are those new aliens that Samus fights. I wonder if the Metroids are going to get their grasp on those six-legged, four-armed beasts that jump out of the jungles, right? Like those seem like a prime, no pun intended, candidate for Metroids 2 to buddy up with them. But even like I am curious to see if Samus is going to have her own kind of control. One of my first bullet points on my notes here is like, okay, she has these psychic powers, but like, what's the next step? Like, it can't just be bullet time and door opening, right? Like there has to be more to it. And I'm like, okay, is Samus gonna be able to control stuff? Is she gonna be able to mind screw stuff and mind mess with things and or mind blast stuff? Like that's they're holding back on that, I have to imagine. Like I think we're definitely getting like the screw attack back. I think we're definitely getting the speed booster. We might even get the shine spark. I think all those kind of things, like those are coming back for sure, and probably in a bigger and better way. But I'm really curious to be like, or find out like what are those end game psychic abilities that she's gonna have, because it has to be more than a couple puzzle things and small combat stuff.
And that's why, and I'm gonna briefly go off on a little tangent here. That's why, and maybe blah isn't the right word for this, but that's why I do believe come this theoretical June Direct, I do think we're gonna see what this game is really about. And I was talking about this last week on the podcast, but the marketing for this game has been very strange because of its positioning within kind of this console transition period. They did a big reveal last year. It was the one more thing. It was this huge deal, but the Switch 2 wasn't announced yet, so they kind of left it at that. But then they showed it again the week before. The Switch 2 still wasn't revealed, but they also wanted to be like, hey, don't get confused. This is still a Switch 1 game. So they showed a little bit there, and then a little reminder to kind of, or not a reminder, but a reveal that it also was going to be on the Switch 2. I think now that like we've crossed like the Switch 2 sale, and it's very clear that it's a cross-gen title, you know what you're getting with both versions. I think next time we see this game, one, we're gonna be seeing 4K Switch 2 footage. I don't think we're gonna be seeing any more Switch 1 footage from here on out, but I also think we're going to get a more traditional trailer as well, because we haven't really gotten that yet. And I feel like, because some people have been saying they felt like the marketing for this game is underwhelming. I think why, it's not so much that the marketing's bad, it's that Nintendo's still holding a lot of their cards to the chest, again, because of this weird transitionary period that is happening with the game being revealed simultaneously on this 4. Because most of what we've gotten so far has been really these like extended gameplay sections. We had a little extended look of what we now know is the intro of the game. We kind of knew that before, but now it's been confirmed. And then we got like the extended Vero section, but we haven't gotten a traditional trailer that like conglomerates various aspects of the game and summarizes it. Like when Dread had a 4-month marketing cycle, but when that first trailer popped off, you got roughly the first hour and a half of the game for a first playthrough. You got like 3 different areas, a handful of abilities. It still held a lot of cards to the chest, but like going in, you had a pretty good idea of what Metroid Dread was going to be about. I still don't know what Prime 4 Angles is about yet. We've gotten a little bit of that with like the psychic abilities. We're speculating a lot about those story details, but we haven't gotten that traditional trailer yet that really pitches the game's main picture to you, and I think that's what we're getting in June. So maybe blowout isn't the word I'm looking for, but I think we're really going to understand what this game is all about very soon.
I mean, I would hope so, because I mean the marketing has not been great for this game. I think if you are not already a Metroid or a Metroid Prime fan, you would look at like what Prime 4 is doing and not really be super impressed, to be quite honest with you. Like, as a Metroid Prime fan, as a Metroid fan, I'm like, this is great, this is awesome. But if you never even played a Metroid Prime game before, or you're young and like the only Metroid Prime experience you might have is remastered, if that, it might not be that exciting, right? What we've seen is kind of slow, pretty basic, like, not for nothing, like what we've seen from the game has not been super exciting, right? And Nintendo's strategy of like holding a lot close to the chest until it gets closer to the release of the game, I understand, I guess, to a degree why they're doing that. But on the other hand, like, sometimes first impressions are all you get from people, right? If you were to see that first, like, the first time Metroid Prime 4 was announced, and you see what they offered in like that first trailer that we got, which was cool, but it wasn't like, and it wasn't anything like super crazy. And then it shows a character at the end that like, you're like, I don't know who even this is. You might not go back for the second or third or fourth impression, even though those might have a better, depiction of what the game actually is. I just wish that like the game, I wish everything was hitting like the first impression of the game, like the first trailer should have shown, like the first trailer should have had the first cutscene in the game. Because that cutscene is sick.
Right?
It's so
that
awesome.
That cutscene is...
Yeah.
Call me hyperbolic. I low-key think that's like one of the best looking cutscenes I've ever seen. Like, that cutscene looks so phenomenal.
It looks great. It definitely is the best looking Metroid cutscene for sure.
Oh yeah, hands down. And it's all done in engine in real time. It's not a pre-rendered cutscene. Like,
is that true?
Oh, it looks... I believe so.
I don't know. There's no way that's not pre-rendered, man. Like, why would they do that all in engine? A lot of it's not happening in space. Because
it seamlessly transitions to the first. I mean maybe it is pre-rendered, but like it's so
seamlessly transition. I mean, it seamlessly transitions, but there's a cut between when the ship is gonna land and then it cuts to the perspective we get of the ship coming up, and that it could easily have been pre-rendered up until the point where the ship goes over the cliffside and then Samus comes out of the ship. I mean, it looked like I could be wrong, but
yeah. I guess technically we probably won't even know until the game comes out and we actually are able to like dig into the code and whatnot, or maybe like when we're playing it, or maybe like we look at it on TV and we can see some noticeable artifacting.
But either way, like the cutscene looks really sick and it looks
beautiful
awesome.
Cutscene, yeah.
And they should have, like, if I was making the first trailer for this game, I would have started with that cutscene, and then you throw in like a bunch of cool combat, throw in the bosses, throw in the screw attack and the speed booster and stuff blowing up, and show a couple moments of Samus doing the psychic stuff and the slower things, and then get, like, there hasn't been a good balance of like really exciting, hooky kind of stuff and the slower, like more technical and puzzle and cerebral type of gameplay that Metroid Prime is also known for. So like
I don't know. I'm inclined to agree. No. I'm totally with you there. I almost wonder. Yeah. I almost wonder if like they revealed the game too early. I almost wonder if it would have been better if they like held that a bit closer. I think they kind of just wanted to like, hey, it's been 7 years at this point. We're about to transition to the Switch 2 marketing. Let's give you a really hype one more thing. I almost wonder if it would have been smarter in the long run to just hold that off for a few months longer.
They should have.
Metroid fans, we would have been angry in the moment, but like, imagine if the one more thing in the Switch 2 Direct was our very first time seeing Metroid Prime 4K, and we had and like you said, we had like the cutscene and all that. Like, if our first impression of the game was like that, I feel like, and granted, like, I don't know. This is all. This is, again, we're all like hypothesizing here. I don't know like what effect. We won't know what effect the marketing will have on this game until the game's out and we really see those sales numbers. And even then, we technically won't even know what effect the marketing had on it and whether a different alteration of it would have been better. But like the way I look at it in my mind at this point, it would have made sense to reveal the game earlier if they did more within that time frame, but they haven't really done that much at all. You got that brief. Yeah. We got that brief tease in the Switch 1 Direct, and that was, and then like not even 30 seconds in the Switch 2 Direct, which again for us, like, we're hype. We're like, yo, look at how fluid and sick these animations look. This is Metroid Prime gameplay, baby. But like you said, I don't think they're doing a good job advertising it to your general audience. I think they did a much better job advertising Dread to like a general audience who was unfamiliar with Metroidvanias. But again, the marketing campaign is still going, so we have to wait and see. But I'm inclined to agree with you at this point.
What I would have done is, you don't even show it off last year. What would have been really cool is if they did a really hype start to the, like, they showed off everything they showed off in that Switch 1 Direct the week before Switch 2. That's the first time we saw Metroid Prime 4. We get all of this stuff at once on the Switch 1 just before the Switch 2 is about to be released, and then everyone's talking about it, and then literally a week later you get it again, and you show off that cutscene, and you show off a bunch of more different stuff, and you're getting hit with so much info, like, wow, this is hype, this is a moment right here. Instead, it was like, Metroid Prime 4 exists, and then we waited half a year, and then we still are kind of getting piecemealed, and at least to me, like, maybe it's different. Maybe I'm just have rose-tinted glasses, but I feel like some of my favorite games, like growing up, when parts of the game were being revealed, like over time, I never felt like, oh, like this could have been stronger. Like this could, they could have shown, like, I feel like a lot of the time marketing was like they showed off all the sick stuff first, and then they show you some of the other stuff, that might not be as exciting, right? Instead of starting with the stuff that might not be as exciting, and then just before it comes out, be like, actually, this is why it's so sick, Like, by then, most people might not care,
I mean, that's kind of what they did with Mario Kart. Like, we were all hyping up the Direct, and it's like, this is nothing.
Yeah, and right, but the initial release of it, the initial impression was whoa, this is sick.
The initial trailer was insanely hype, and I'm still hyped for it.
And to be fair, I think that Nintendo Direct that they did for Mario Kart World was less about like, let's show them more stuff, and more so like, hey, we have all this stuff, all this info floating around, and not everyone might have watched it. Let's put it all in one place so everyone can understand it and whatnot. Especially people who don't follow all this stuff on the internet all the time. That was my interpretation of that, and I think that's probably the route they ended up going. But yeah, it feels like the marketing's backwards, and it's like they're gonna show off all the cool stuff just before it comes out. I'm like, but like, wouldn't it be more effective if you just showed us all the cool stuff the whole time? Every time we see the game, it's exciting from the first impression to the one just before the game releases. Like, cause like with the trailer that we got, which was cool, and whatnot. Like we saw that new suit and we saw more reviewers, whatever. But like a big part of it was like talking about psychic powers, which amounted to opening a door and doing bullet time. I'm like, look, if I was not a Metroid fan or not a Metroid Prime fan, I'd be like, wow, this looks great for a game for 20 years ago, you know, like it looks like the most basic SPS of all time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I'm sure they are holding stuff close to the chest. I just wish they were. I just don't know. Like if they have such a good game, why I would be knocking down every door trying to show off as much as I could. You know, you don't have to give away the whole story and have to give away the whole game without being able to, you know, and still be able to show off a lot more cool stuff. And to me, I'd rather be spoiled on some of it and know it's going to be good than not be spoiled and find out actually it doesn't have any of the stuff I was hoping it would have. I don't know. That's just me. Like, it's different than like, oh, they showed off Kraid in the trailer for Metroid Dread. Spoilers. You know, like that doesn't change the technical design of the game. That's just like a hype thing to hook Metroid fans in for, right? Same thing with like Sylux. Like that doesn't change the design of the game, but if you know, and you're hyped.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have hurt to show off the speed booster or the shine spark in the first trailer, because that's something that like you don't have to be a Metroid fan to be like, whoa, that's cool. That looks like fun, right?
Right.
You hold that close to the chest and you wait until the month before the game comes out. Well, by then, Mario Kart's going to be out already, and Donkey Kong's going to be out already, and GTA's going to be around the corner. People aren't going to care.
I would say the GTA trailer 2 drops.
And, you know, Elder Scrolls is going to be coming out. Oblivion, whenever that's coming out, that just got announced today. It's the trailers. By the time the show's out, I think it'll be out. That trailer or whatever. Like all like time doesn't stop for anybody. Like there are going to be new things coming out. You got to take. I think especially this day and age where like the cycle of new stuff and people's attention spans are so short, and there's so much stuff that can take over someone's attention, that every single touch point that you have marketing wise with the potential audience needs to bang and needs to be sick, because if it's not, people they're going to move on to the next thing. There's so many different options, you know. It's on the company's job to be like, you should care this whole time. It shouldn't be, well, you know, just hold on, just wait, we're going to show you more cool stuff. No, people are going to be like, screw you, I'm not spending, I'm going to go spend that money on Grand Theft Auto. I'm going to spend it on the next I'm going to spend it on Doom, right? I'm going to spend it on this and that. Like, I'm like, and look, Metroid Prime 4 looks great. But if like I'm being piecemealed this new game, meanwhile, I watch the trailers for Doom, and everything they show off for the game looks incredible and looks sick, and the pedal is constantly to the floor. There is no letting up. And certainly that's a different kind of game, to be fair, right? It's not, you know, Metroid Prime is not a similar type of FPS to that. Fine. But I do think they could have done a better job pacing the compelling stuff in the game and not piecemealing it so much for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know, and not be so scared to show off the cool stuff about the game. I don't know.
You bring up a good point with Doom, because like that's another game that was revealed along a similar time with Metroid Prime 4. It's coming out in like 3 weeks now. Actually, it's just around the corner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, May 15th, same day as the Nintendo San Francisco store opens.
Sorry, hopefully. I know we're talking about Doom now, but is that coming out on PC same day or no?
Yes, yeah, that is PC.
Picking it up.
Yeah, I already got the collector's edition pre-order with my Steam code. So, but yeah, that game was revealed. You know, I can't remember. It was revealed at the Xbox show. I can't remember where that took place in relation to the June Direct. I want to say it was a couple weeks before, but about the same time as Prime 4 was re-revealed to the world. And I feel like, you know, Microsoft has done a better job, you know, pitching Dark Ages more than Nintendo has with Metroid. Because, you know, with Dark Ages trailer 1, you got the big hook like, hey, new Doom announced. It's the first Doom game in 5 years since Doom Eternal. You know, here's some new guns, you know, here's some, you know, some heavy metal guitar riffs. It looks metal AF, you know.
Yeah.
And then the second trailer, you get an idea of like what the combat loop in this game and how that really differentiates from Eternal, because all 3 of these new Doom reboot games have very distinct, you know, combat flows. You know, they're loosely tied together, being, you know, first person shooters with like the speed that you'd expect from a Doom game, but they're all very unique in how they do combat loops. And Dark Ages, you know, in that second trailer, they really show off how it's a lot of parry based combat. It's very Dark Souls influence. You're looking for these windows to like to get jabs and hooks into enemies and get up close to them, instead of the typical glory kill system where you're waiting for them to stumble. And that's kind of what makes this game really unique. You also get some more of like the mech gameplay, the dragon gameplay, which kind of adds this almost weirdly Halo element to like Doom, but like in a kind of a cool way. You see a lot.
Sick.
Yeah, you see a much wider open battlefields than your typical arenas that you see. And so it still looks like Doom, but you're also seeing, what the hook of the game is, what differentiates it. And like we have a little bit of that with Prime 4 with the psychic abilities, but it's like, whereas Doom, you can tell that there's, they still have some cards to hold to their chest. They're more comfortable with showing the game full force. Nintendo is not at a point where they're comfortable showing Metroid Prime 4's true potential yet.
I don't get why, because if it was a really good game, I would be shouting it to the hilltops every time I talk about the game.
Yeah,
and
maybe I was gonna say maybe it'll make more sense to us later once the marketing campaign is done. But at the moment, I'm inclined to agree with you.
But that's that's what I'm saying. Like that's my point, is that like we shouldn't have to be. They should be selling us. Like when does selling involve like just you wait like. Whatever I'm going to tell you is going to be better. Like, no, when you're selling someone on, you want to when movie trailers come out, there's like a teaser and then they show you all the good stuff. They're not showing you the boring parts of the movie. Not to say that what we've seen are the boring parts of Metroid Prime 4, but it's like, to me, it's like, okay, if you have these cool psychic abilities, right? You have to have like at least half a dozen to a dozen, like really cool, awesome, like psychic based puzzles, for example, right? We should have seen at least one of those by now, and not like a door opening, because that to me would be like, oh, how sick that puzzle was. Like there has to be more than that, right? Now to me, I'm like wondering, is there going to be some cool psychic puzzles? I hope so. Like they should be showing me that. And I think
or even
go ahead.
Oh no, you can go first. I was
just gonna say that I think it's easy for someone listening here to be like, well, Metroid Prime 4 is not that type of game, blah, 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 blah. And these are different games, and I understand that these are different games we're comparing, but I think any good game should and does have more than enough compelling stuff that you should be able to be hitting those trailers with that stuff the whole time. On the other side, I'm sure there are many people out there that are like, well, what I've seen has been compelling to me through and through, and that's great. And for the most part, I agree. I think for the most of what I've seen from Prime 4 is compelling, but it certainly could be stronger. I think there are, I get like, okay, like you're showing us the basic abilities of the psychic powers. I guess you need to show us that. And like one of those things is like, I keep going back to the door opening thing, but like, I think that they want to like boil it down to its essence, maybe too much, and maybe start from showing the minuscule stuff too much. To the point where it becomes people's impression of the game overall, if that's not necessarily true. Because when I've seen people talk about the psychic powers online, they're like, great, wow, psychic powers, you can open doors and do, bullet time. That stuff has been in the games forever, or is not new or innovative at all. And even if that might not necessarily be the full representation of those abilities in the game in the final product, that's what people think they are potentially right now. And that might influence them whether or not they might be interested in the game. And certainly, even though the game looks really good, does it look like a modern FPS? I don't think so. And when I say that, I don't mean like, oh, it doesn't look like the new Call of Duty. No, of course not. But when Metroid Prime released back in the day, the FPS genre was not as varied as it is today, right? There are so many other kinds of FPS experiences in 2025 versus 2005 or 2001 or whatever it is, 2007, 2004, whatever, that Metroid Prime is still unique, but is it as unique as it was back then? Absolutely not. Right? Like we even, you have even like walking simulators, all kinds of first person types of games, first person adventures, you want to call them, first person shooters, whatever. It's way more diversified, way more varied. That I don't think.
Yeah. First person RPGs even, which I think have a lot of similarities to Prime. Yeah.
Exactly. So like I don't think the games should necessarily be resting on their laurels. Like, oh, well, it's still a Metroid Prime experience. Yeah. But a Metroid Prime experience today is not the same in terms of uniqueness as it was 20 years ago. And I do think that it needs to update with the times a little bit, but also find new ways to be unique, right? And not assume that what made Prime unique in the 2000s still makes it as unique in the 2020s, right? Like there are many slower paced, puzzle based, not combat focused first person games that exist on the market. Tons of them, you know? So and again, I think maybe, and I don't want to harp on this point too much. I will just say that I wish that they were coming at us a bit more full frontal, with what Metroid Prime 4 has to offer, because while I might be satisfied as a Metroid fan, I would love Metroid Prime 4 to be a continuation of Dread and the game's abilities to reach new audiences while still being a traditional and awesome Metroid experience, right? I'm not asking for Metroid to be something that's not to appease new people, because then it's not Metroid anymore, and that's not what I want. But I do think that there should be better steps taken both in the game design and in the marketing of the game to bring in a new audience, so that way more people play Metroid, and maybe we get more Metroid games, or maybe people get to enjoy the Metroid experience along with us and the community grows, or it just in general maybe makes the game more palatable even to someone like me who's been a Metroid fan for years but maybe still wants something new, right? I've seen people talk online like, oh, it needs to be a Metroid Prime experience first, and it needs to be, we don't want it to change things up or spice things up or whatever. Like, I absolutely want it to spice things up a little bit. If I wanted to just play Metroid Prime again, I'd go play Remastered. And I can do that, you know?
Yeah.
I want to play something that's familiar, but also innovative and new and freshens things up a little bit and isn't the same formula, which, not for nothing, is 20 years old and needs to be changed up a little bit for better, for worse. So I hope that Metroid Prime 4 is going in that direction a little bit more. If it's not, it is what it is. You know, obviously the game is pretty much close to completion if it's not completed already. So whatever I say here doesn't make a difference. But I do hope that if they better have a good reason for how they're marketing the game. And if they are holding stuff close to the chest, that it is stuff that I'm super excited for and it's worth holding to the chest. I just wish that, I guess, in my opinion, if it was that good, I would have been showing it off already. That's my take.
Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much, I feel like I've been saying I agree with you this whole episode, but yeah, we
need
totally
Andy here to argue with me, because that's
what Andy would 100% be arguing and disagreeing with this right now.
And I don't understand that point.
There's a void in the universe right now.
I know,
that
we need
needs
Andy
to be filled.
here. A couple other things, because I don't want to harp on that point too long, because I feel like we've been talking about that a little bit. I do really hope, and I feel like this is implied by the cutscene in the beginning, that we are going to get some more ship combat and some more ship usage. There was a part of me, I'm like, we better get in that bad boy and get out and fly around in it, you know, like, Long Night of Solace type reach mission.
I'm trying not to get my hopes. I'm at the moment, like, because I know you also mentioned, like, you know, speed booster stuff later. At the moment, I'm just going in without any of those expectations.
Oh, come
just
on,
because,
man. They
like,
gotta have that in there. You saw that long bridge. You telling me you're not gonna speed boost across that? No way. No way.
Hey, you're misunderstanding me. I want the speed boost. That's my all-time favorite Metroid item. I will scream to the heavens if we do get speed booster, but I'm trying not to overhype myself in case that it's not in there. I don't want to go in there with that expectation, because then if it's not there, then I'm gonna feel extremely burned. And so I'd rather just be like, hey, you know what?
You're like, you have to muddy your expectations of something that's in, like, an ability that's in almost every Metroid game. Like, come on, like, we should already know that's in the game. I think that's fair. To me, and my angle is like, okay, we're definitely getting the Screw Attack Speed Booster Shines back. We have to be. Come on, how could you not? The ship stuff is stuff that I'm not trying to get too hyped on, even though I am excited for the potential of it. That's not a guarantee, so I won't hype myself up too on that.
We were also talking last week when during that cutscene when Samus flips out of her ship, the ship does fly off, and so it's possible that ship might not have been caught in the Vuros field, which I'd be disappointed, because, like you just said, I want you know, Prime 3's command visor and ship combat. I want to see that expanded upon. I don't want that to be a one and done. I think I think we've barely scratched the surface on what we can do with that ship, and I want to see that taken to its full potential. But I'm also not going in with this game with the expectation that this game is going to do that. And if not, that's fine. My favorite game of all time doesn't have ship combat either. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
But does your favorite game of all time suggest it, perhaps? I don't know. I that is a decent point actually, but I would have to imagine that like the ship is nearby, even though it does fly off, because otherwise it wouldn't be very useful to Samus if it flew away so far that it can't come back. I mean, if you remember the beginning of or the end of Metroid Prime, right, where she's jumping out of the artifact temple, it's nearby enough where it's able to show up and Samus is able to get onto the ship, right? So like, I think that will probably play into it a little bit, where maybe Samus loses communication with the ship, right? Like maybe her comms come down or something, and she isn't sure if it got caught up, but then she ends up like getting a signal or sees it in the distance, and that's like maybe a little subplot where she has to go and retrieve the ship and get it back working, and then she has access to all those features and whatnot again. I could see that happening.
Yeah, I hope you're right. That sounds awesome, but until we see that in a trailer or I play that for myself, I am choosing.
That's totally
I'm choosing
fair.
not to speculate.
For me,
that.
I'm gonna speculate. Well, there's a difference between speculating and expecting. I don't expect necessarily all those things. What I'm speculating is that
Gotcha.
middle to like decent expectation is it's gonna be similar to Prime 3, where Samus is gonna have some direct and limited accessibility to using her ship to like extra firepower, solve puzzles, and maybe move around the planet, right? Highest expectation or speculation, which I don't expect, is we're getting in the ship and we're gonna fly it around ourselves. That would be sick. But that I'm not. I'm just and you know, maybe I'm just getting my hopes up because like the cutscene like very finely focused on like the ship combat a little bit, and also like zooming in on the guns as they like change modes and whatnot. The ship changes modes, but that could just have been a cool thing to do in the cutscene, and there's nothing more than that, and that could very well be the case, but I hope not. I would love, we've talked about it on the show before, that's one of the greatest things about Prime 3. That's a crossover.
You want me to bring the hammer down?
I say that's a crossover we need, right? Marvel and Metroid. Prime 3.
I think Andy just turned over in his grave hearing that.
No, it would be Metroid and Kirby, which is probably more likely.
Oh, there you go.
Probably more likely of a crossover than he thinks, to be quite honest with you.
I mean, technically, it's already happened. There's that Samus cameo, and I want to say Superstar.
Yeah, could all. I mean,
yeah,
I could see Samus taking out some crazy space demons, and Kirby's right there with him, or Kirby is the space demon.
Yeah. Hey, purple pink is clearly the theme to go in Prime 4. So
yeah, I really hope they bring him back the ship stuff, and I feel like the cutscene is hinting at it a little bit. What else? I really hope we have an upgraded, like a better hard mode. Like
yes, 100%. Yes,
Prime 4, twofold really. It needs to be like there needs to be a harder hard mode where like stuff is just stronger, and then there needs to be like a harder level where like the stuff is smarter, perhaps, and like or a dread mode or something like that. Because I feel like, at least for me, I'm not trying to say skill diff or anything like that, but like the hard modes in Metroid are not hard. I'm sorry, folks. They're not difficult, and maybe they're a little bit more of an endurance challenge. But like, let's be quite honest here. Like the bullet sponginess in Metroid bosses and enemies at higher difficulty levels are nothing compared to actual bullet spongy enemies in other FPS games. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. Even though I personally enjoyed a little bit of an endurance battle against bullet sponge bosses to a degree. I want more challenge in the games, and I hope we get that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Better enemy placements. Maybe you could have like upgraded enemy variants appear earlier in the game. That's like something you see a lot. You see that in a lot of hard modes nowadays. I know like the modern Zelda games, like the Master Quest versions, do that, where like, you know, the top level enemies will start appearing on like, you know, the Great Plateau, like right when you come out of the cave. Yeah, so I'd be totally down for something like that.
Yeah.
For something like that in Metroid. I think I pitched a hard mode, I want to say sometime last year, that like edited specific variables. I think a really good idea is because, you know, there was this debate a while ago on like, oh, should Metroid Prime Remastered have added checkpoints to the difficulty settings? And what my proposal was is, hey, what if you have like, you know, maybe an easy and a rookie mode that still has like, you know, the checkpoints and, you know, some of the modern convenience of games, But then your hard mode completely removes the checkpoints and gives you that old school Metroid experience. I think that would be really sick.
I agree with that. I think that would be fun. Yeah, for sure. I'm not against checkpoints necessarily, as long as like there is a way to preserve the old way of playing the games, or maybe toggle them on or off or something like that. Going back to the enemies, I think, at least from what I played in the demo, the AI could be stronger. Maybe it was just because it was a demo and it was the early. I'm just saying that like the space pirates were pretty much moving and acting like they did 20 years ago. Like they're kind of just standing there and waiting for you to shoot them. I hope the game.
Yeah, nothing stuck out to me when I was with the gameplay footage that I was watching for sure.
And same thing with the boss. Like, again, cool intro boss, cool tutorial boss. But it wasn't something I got super excited about, shooting very obvious weak points and jumping over a energy beam and morph balling underneath the energy wave or whatever, like I really hope they step it up on that point too.
Well, you weren't blown away learning how to circle strafe for the 17th time? What?
No. Oh, and that's another good point too. I saw some people talking about like there's an air dash in the game or something like that. Look, and by an air dash, I mean, like, you're able to, like, dash to the side or whatever after, like, jumping, right? Look, I only played the game for 15 minutes, and that 15 minutes kind of goes by quick. And when you're playing a game for the first time, you don't necessarily think of, maybe I just wanted to have fun playing the game. I didn't think of everything, right? I wasn't like, all I'm saying is I didn't air dash myself. I didn't do it. I didn't accidentally do it. I didn't see anybody else do it. And I saw some people saying online, like, it's confirmed air dash in the game. I don't know where people are getting that from.
I think there's a bit of confusion going around. So what is in the game is so when you're locked onto an enemy,
you're locked
you
on
dash
straight.
side.
Yes.
Yeah, you can dash side to side. In Prime 4, you can also dash forward and backwards now.
Yes.
When you're locked on.
Yes.
I think that's what people are getting confused on, because I also haven't seen any confirmation of like an air dash of what you would expect when you hear like air dash of like, oh, I'm gonna rapidly without being locked on move in like a specific kind of like what you do in Doom Eternal actually,
or even when you're locked on but doing it after a initial jump. The strafe you do in Metroid Prime is not, it is your initial jump essentially, right? It's using your initial jump input in a direction.
Correct.
It's not jumping in the air and then jumping and moving in a direction, which is a typical air dash that you would imagine. Yes, you're right. What it is it could be omnidirectional, but what I could tell, it's a four-way lock-on strafe, where instead of just being able to go left and right, like you said, it can go forward and back. There's also a clip that I saw people talking about where like there was footage of it, but it looked like whoever was playing was strafing at the moment that a space pirate like pod lands in the ground, and they're boosted because this big object comes in the ground and hits Samus and shoves her physically out of the way, right? While they're doing, and there's like a momentum boost in that way, which has been also in the Metroid games, damage boosting since Super Metroid, from what I remember. So
I was about to say, like, all the speedrunners saw that and just got a huge grin on their face looking like, speed confirmed, let's go.
But again, that's even, I don't know, that's something you could necessarily always take advantage of, because it's like, it was a random interaction from that specific sequence.
Very specific set piece, not like something you could like replicate at any point in the game.
Now, could that be in the game? Maybe. Would it be cool for it to be in the game? Yeah, sure. That could be a lot of fun. Absolutely. And I mean, like, Dread has an air dash, right? Like, they put that in the game. I don't see why they couldn't put it in Prime. But is it confirmed?
No,
what I can
absolutely
see,
not.
I don't believe that's the case. And I'm not trying to call out anybody who said that it was. I just saw it talked about online. I was like, what, really? I didn't know that. And at least for me, it's like, look, if we're gonna say something's in the game, give me definitive proof of it happening. Otherwise, I'm gonna wait. But I hope that's another thing, and we talked about it on the show. I hope we get a little bit more of a layered experience in the gameplay. Like, throw in an air dash, maybe throw it, throw in a slide, throw in a melee, close quarters counter button, stuff like that. I haven't seen it just yet. I hope we get to see it.
Throwing some mantling, some ledge grapping, on one hand they're like quality of life improvements that you expect, but they're also like they add up, and I think they would like really go a long way, especially when you take those quality of life improvements and combine them with, not only your more traditional Metroid abilities, but assumingly the new abilities that you're going to get in this game, even beyond just the psychic powers. Like all of that has so much potential to create its own identity with.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. There's a lot that is still. I mean, again, maybe maybe Samus, maybe Nintendo is holding all this close to their chest, and they're ready to. And I would love to be surprised when they unveil it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I feel like we're definitely still. It's still crazy to say because we've seen a good amount of not a good amount, but like we've seen time wise a decent amount of the game, and we're getting closer and closer to the game coming out. It feels like, excuse me, there's still a lot more. Like we're scratching the surface. Like we talked about the Lamorn, we're talking about Sylux's role, all that kind of stuff. I'm excited for like the part of the story where Samus is trying to probably help some stranded Federation members, try to find her ship, hunt down Sylux. Maybe you brought up BioShock, but like kind of similar to Hunters and also BioShock 1 or 2, like maybe Samus is running into Sylux randomly throughout the game, right? And you kind of have to take him on. And maybe he gets stronger and stronger each time, like that kind of stuff. Like that's what I'm super excited about, that I hope they're putting into the game, like some kind of more interactions with him. And Samus, like maybe there's sequences where you literally have to hunt him down and he's like running around the map and you're gonna get him, like stuff like that. That's so many cool possibilities. I hope happen.
It is wild that we've seen the game in action 3 times now, and like we barely know anything about this. And again, maybe after June, when we really get an understanding of this, we'll understand it and it'll all make sense. But I can't talk about the future. I can only talk about the present. And the present, it's been very weird, and I don't know if off-putting is the right word. It hasn't been off-putting for me, but I could definitely see why it would be off-putting to like your average player. Like, okay, that's cool. Happy for the Metroid fans, but
I will say, I do think at this point there probably isn't any multiplayer for the game. I think that I feel pretty confident about. It would feel odd to me that if there was multiplayer, that they wouldn't have shown that off, especially with that like Nintendo Discord, right? I don't know what we're gonna call that.
Yeah.
Distendo, like whatever game chat they had. Like if there was a multiplayer for it, I feel like they would be showing that off. And like you can use your play up to shoot your friends, or well don't you know what I'm saying, like play get in the arena with your friends and kill your friends.
Your friends in the game and shoot them in the face.
But like that, like to me, if I was showing off Metroid Prime multiplayer, or if I had that to show off, I would have maybe they're holding that close to their chest. Maybe after Mario Kart comes out, they're like, what's the next cool multiplayer game we want to show off? Oh, it's Metroid Prime. It's Metroid Prime 4. I'm a Metroid Prime Hunters fan. I'm a Metroid Prime multiplayer hoper and want that to come back. And I think it would be great for the game in terms of mass appeal and also my enjoyment of the game and many people's enjoyment of the game. That said, I feel like we're probably just getting a single player experience, just based on. It seems like they've had ample opportunity to show off, at least hint at multiplayer, and we haven't really gotten that. So I'm going to say it's probably not happening.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. One last thing I want to touch on, and I think we can head out after this, is kind of a repeat of last week, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I posted in the podcast channel the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond key art, and there's a couple things that really stuck out to me. One, there's these statues around the Lamorn that look eerily like Chozo statues. They got the wings, they got what looks to be like beaks. And so I'm kind of curious to see, one, if those really indeed are Chozo, and how does that, obviously that has to tie into the Lamorn somehow, and I'm curious how that works. But even more so than that, of all the things that intrigue me about this piece, it's this desert looking location that has like these little crystalline looking rocks sticking out of the surface, and in this sand desert, you know, we see a couple of structures. We see this tower in the distance with like this floating tooth, and we see this almost kind of castle looking structure to the left with like this torn up flag. It almost looks like that's like an outpost with the surviving Federation members where they're hiding out. And what intrigues me about this is that these look like locations that you would visit, not like little background stuff, but it's all located on like these sand dune looking things, and which does not look like a traditional Metroid layout, which are like, you know, they're laid out like rooms. This does not look like a room. And so I'm curious if I'm not necessarily saying Prime 4 is going to be open world. I don't think it is, but I'm wondering if like this is hinting to like maybe some more open-ended areas, you know, a type of 3D Metroidvania exploration that we've never really seen before. And that really intrigues me.
Yeah, no, that's a really, I'm looking at it right now, which by the way, I mean, Samus looks so sick in this key art.
Oh, it looks incredible.
I love how sick Samus looks. Like you can see like almost like the grit on her like abdomen, like on the gold, and it's not just like seamless, and you can see like the like indentations on her. And I'm sorry, that's not what you're talking about, but I'm just looking at it right now. I'm like, Samus looks so sick in this key art.
That's totally fair. I was also saying, like, once this game comes out, I think we got to revisit the box art rankings, because this definitely is going to go high up on my list for sure.
100%. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. I think so. Number one, that was part of the reason why I thought maybe these Lamorns aren't necessarily as like chill and cool as we think. Like those bird statues are those like Lamorn warriors, and like in a good way and a bad way. Like it immediately makes me think of like the Chozo robot warriors that end up like Samus ends up fighting in Dread. And then you go to the sand aspect that you're talking about. Yes, I 100% think that this is potentially more of like not open world, but more so instead of like in like essentially one big room that has a lot more to explore in it and smaller areas to go into, or rooms within them, you know? I think that's what we could be seeing here, where it's not the traditional like Metroid Prime layout of just like these interlocked, you know, tunnels into smaller rooms. Or maybe it is, but those maybe larger lobby areas or main areas of like a specific like section of the game are just these big expanses that Samus is, you know, exploring. And I maybe has to literally, I mean, this to me, I'm like, how could you not have the speed booster in this? Like Samus is like speed boosting from one of these little locations to the other in this big desert, and she's like running so fast that like the sand's turning to like glass, like in her wake and whatever. Like that would be sick.
That'd be really cool to show off in a trailer.
That's what I'm saying. That should have been in the trailer. Like that should have been in the trailer.
Would be super hype.
Oh my god. Yeah, I feel like those statues are ominous. That tower is definitely kind of ominous. I'm mostly interested in that base with the flag, because I feel like I had this theory on the show a few weeks back where like I wonder if there is like still a time aspect to this game. I think because part of me is like, okay, maybe they kind of like, because we talked about before the show how like Tanabe like had these ideas of bringing Sylux back and maybe having like time travel or time manipulation or something involved in the story. And it seems like maybe that's not the biggest part of the story anymore. It's more like the beyond is more so like going beyond the real and in implementing like the metaphysical and the psychic aspects of reality or whatever it is. However, part of me feels like I wonder if there is a time aspect in which everything that was sucked into Vuros did not get sucked into Vuros and land at the same time period, right? I wonder if everything got sucked in, but certain stuff got landed on the planet before everything else, right? Like maybe Samus is the last thing that shows up on Vuros, and all that Federation stuff had been there for maybe decades before Samus shows up, even though they were sucked in at the same time. Like maybe those things showed up and these Federation troops have been on the planet for years, and then Samus shows up, even though it's been only a few seconds for her. In actuality, on Vuos, it's been many, many years. And that's why this base is there, because the Federation like set up a base, and they've been trying to survive on this planet with no hope. And then Samus shows up, and they're like, and Samus is like, whoa, like, this all just happened to us a few minutes ago. And they're like, it's been 10 years for us. Like that's how I think the time aspect is potentially going to occur here. And what if Sylux has also been on the planet for a long period of time and has gotten stronger that whole time until Samus shows up. And now Sylux is like way stronger, and Samus doesn't expect that because, as far as she's concerned, she just blasted him in the chest super easily 15 minutes ago. But it's actually been a decade or two, and Sylux has gotten super strong, and Samus shows up and is completely unprepared for the fact that everything's already been on the planet for a while. That is something that I think might potentially happen.
And inject it into my veins right now. I'm so on board for that.
Yeah.
And also, reminds me a lot of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Definitely play that. Very similar thing in that game where like all the soldiers, they enter Mount Koth, which is this place trapped in time, and they all get like everyone perceives time differently, and so like you'll all arrive in Mount Koth at the same time, but then you'll encounter a character 16 minutes later. They've been there for like months.
Yeah.
And so it's
and like that scene in Interstellar. Like you show up on that planet and it's like, you know, they just showed up like moments after the ship that crashed there, even though in their time it's been years and years, but on that planet it's been a few minutes, right? Like that I think was what we might be getting into. That really excites me.
And I 100% do think that there still is going to be a time aspect to this as well. I mean, literally, we even kind of see it with like the bullet time you're referring to. Like the enemies freeze during that moment where you're controlling the beam. So in a sense, we're getting a little tease of like some time manipulation. I definitely think that we still are gonna see a lot more. And I am very excited for June. Because I can't wait to see what this game is really all about. I'm feeling very optimistic that it's going to hype me up, and that being said though, I do think we've been a little bit underserved. Hopefully it all pays off in the end though. But I'm excited regardless.
100% agreed. Before we sign off, because we are about to hit the 2-hour mark, I will say
yes.
I know there was a contingent of people online that are like, hey, these Lamorns, what if they're Metroid Prime? Or whatever, and what if Metroid Prime is somehow involved? And I'm like, oh, please not. But I'm looking at this key art, and these Lamorns have some pretty Metroid Prime shaped heads. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't think that they're Metroid Prime related, but I'm like, I see it. I see what they're saying. I get it.
They remind me more of like the Hollow Knight characters than anything.
Oh well, I mean, I wouldn't. That maybe, but I mean, if you look at their heads, that to me immediately is like, oh, that's Prime. That's the inner core. That's the Prime's essence, right? Like that is, if you took the Prime boss from Metroid Prime and put it on a statue's head, or like that's it right there. So I don't know. There could be something to it. I don't know if I'm necessarily on board with that, because I don't think we need to keep recycling this stuff. But I'm like, I see it.
I see, and it's honestly, it's not even just the Prime core. You know how like when you scan Metroid Prime, and there's that one little picture where you can see like the eyes and the almost humanoid looking nose. The way that it's angled here, it doesn't look exactly the same, but it has the angles are very similar in the way that's drawn. Maybe that is connected, because like we never really get an explanation. Like, why does Metroid Prime have like this humanoid face underneath at least its phase 1 shell? Maybe I don't know, maybe it's connected here. Probably not, but I don't know, something to think about.
That would be interesting if like they maybe not retcon it, but they were like, oh, maybe Metroid Prime was a Lamorn or something. I don't know. Yeah, like the face isn't exactly the same, but it's similar.
Maybe Metroid Prime is what happens when you combine a Lamorn with a fusion Metroid and expose it to Phazon.
What if the events of Metroid Prime happen because of what happens in Metroid Prime 4? You know, like Samus fights a Lamorn Prime, and that gets sent to Talon in the past or something. You know, like I don't know.
You know what? Some people might be cringing at this. I don't hate this.
I don't hate this. I don't hate that. I don't necessarily hate that. It's way better than Ravenbeak being Samus's dad. I will tell you that much. I'm excited for what all that means, because I'm also I don't even know also, but also I'm like, oh, there's 3 of them. Like, oh, Halo 3, Halo 2, the 3 prophets. Like,
yeah,
they could be bad guys.
We've definitely talked about this as well,
Yeah,
and I swear we'll sign off in a second. But like there's you can see there's a ton of like Halo like influence, which makes sense. You know, you have Kyle Heffley, you have a bunch of other people from 343 and Bungie that have come and worked on this game, so it makes sense that a lot of the art direction would reflect. Yeah, I mean, it looks phenomenal.
Mix
I love
my 2
it.
favorite game series together.
Yeah,
please.
yeah. The Lamorn are definitely evocative of the prophets. We've talked about the space pirates look like the elites, which is awesome. Always love to get some wart in my Metroid. Vuros, we've talked about how a lot of that looks like the forest and Halo 4.
Even the creatures, they look kind of like the Prometheans you first run into in Halo 4. I'm like, come on,
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
come on. And then like that bridge that you fight someone, I'm like, that's a Destiny 2 bridge for sure. Yeah, that's all I got to say right now. I think we've like I don't know if I can add any more. I think we've covered everything here. This is a solid 2 hours of the show, so I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, I was actually wondering. I wasn't sure if we were going to do a full episode. I think we got more than enough, especially with our outtakes and shenanigans beforehand. So I think with that, I think we will put everyone at ease, and we will sign off for the night. And see you next week. Again, good luck to all you out there who are going to be going for the Switch 2 pre-orders in just a few hours from now. All the luck in the world. But in the meantime, you can check us out on OmegaMetroid.com. And check out our podcast every single week, dropping Wednesday. We are the only weekly Metroid podcast in the world. So if you're dying for a Metroid fix, if you need some Metroid Prime 4 content to keep you going, we got you covered. We still got a few more Prime 4 episodes in the chamber for you. So don't you worry about that, folks. And then you can follow all of us as well on Blue Sky. You can follow our main account at Omega Metroid, and you can follow us, the hosts, as well, at Doominal Cross, at Dak City, and at Spatiri 316, all on Blue Sky. Check out. I think I already mentioned the website. Check out our strategy guides as well. We haven't posted anything yet this year. Last year we went on an absolute strategy guide tear. We are super close to finally releasing our Metroid Prime Hunters guide, so stay tuned on that. We're just putting the finishing touches on right now. We're covering both the single player and the an in-depth beginner's multiplayer guide for you as well. So if you're looking to get in some Metroid Prime Hunters action in the year 2025, we're gonna have you covered there. In the meantime, though, take care, folks. We'll see y'all next mission. Bye for now.